Okay, so now we're moving on to the front here. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what to do here. So before you ever take your suspension apart or something that, you know, is going to leave your car in a state where it's not going to be able to move for a while, you definitely want to make sure you have the right parts. In this case here, there is a left and a right side for the strut. So this is the passenger side here, and this is where this guy here hooks to or bolts up to right here. So looks like this is the correct part. So as mentioned before, I am going to be reusing my spring, so you will need a spring compressor. It's just the shock absorber that I'm changing out. So how do you do that? Well, the front is actually fairly easy. First thing you're gonna do is obviously jack up your car, get the wheel off. You're gonna come in here and you are going to do two things. One, you are going to undo this bolt here and set it off to the side. Be careful for, you know, your wheel sensor and the brake line over here. That's going to be kind of in the way. And then the next thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to take this bolt out right here. All right, and this bolt here goes through these two little nubs, as you can see here, to keep the strut sitting in place, right? The problem is, if your car has over 100,000 like mine, this here is basically rusted onto this guy. So what you're gonna have to do is, what I did, took one of these chisels, and there's a brake. I don't know if you guys can see it. Move this guy out of the way. Right, because the bolt has to basically pinch this, right? So there's a brake here. You're gonna put this guy in here like so, and then you basically pull, and what it does is it separates these two metal pieces and allows you to hit this guy very gently with the hammer and allow him to come down. Now, you don't want this thing to just drop. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take a jack, put it up under there, smack this a few times, let it fall down just a little, drop your jack, fall down a little, drop your jack. Now, very important part. When you get to the bare end here, remember, this whole knuckle assembly wants to fall towards you, right? So instead of breaking your shin, this is what you're going to do. You're going to get a rather large zip tie or something of that sort. All right, so I got a giant zip tie here, of course, Harbor Freight special. And I'm going to secure it by going through this hole and going around the stabilizer bar. All right, or maybe I'll go somewhere up here where it can't just, you know, slip off. But nevertheless, what you want to do is you definitely want to make sure you support this, because if this falls, I mean, it can tear up a bunch of, you know, you got your brake line here, you got your sensors, just avoids a lot more damage than you want it to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And then this is about half of it, right? You still got to come up here. I'm gonna have to unbolt this guy here and then drop the whole assembly, and then we're gonna go to the table and see what this thing looks like. All right, so here's how this thing comes apart. You have your strut here, which, as you can see, mine is completely shot. It's taken a while to drop down, but ultimately what you have is you have your strut. I'd recommend getting new, at least the bump stop. Mine is completely tore up. I don't have one. Didn't order it, didn't think about it, but that goes over like this. Then that whole thing goes into the spring, which gets received here. Then you have this that sits like so, and then this is the part that bolts up for the strut tower. Couple of things that you're going to run into. One, you're definitely going to need a spring compressor. Do not try this without a spring compressor. And even with the spring compressor, it's actually kind of sketchy because you just don't have enough space to scrunch the thing enough, so it kind of pops off when you completely loosen it up. But you'll need that, and then if you're going to use well, not if you're going to use it, but just in general, the nut that's on top of the strut up here is a 19, and I had a heck of a time trying to fit one in there because it's kind of tight. And if you have the impact sockets, which is basically what I was using, you have to have one that's got skinny walls. Again, thank you Harbor Freight, because the Husky ones that I was originally using, which are the ones I just so happened to grab, were too thick to fit in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and drop the new strut in there, and then basically put everything back together and onto the next side. Okay, so here it is back together with my crappy bump stop sitting there as usual. For this guy here, when you put him back on, the nut is actually smaller, at least the one that I got is. I'm actually kind of surprised because the bearing in there has grease from the bottom, not from the top. So not sure what's going on there, but I'm probably gonna just put some more grease on there just so it stays greased up. One thing to note when you're doing this is you got these pockets that the springs sit in. Right, so see how that spring goes to that end. Before you remove the tension from the spring, just make sure that those are sitting in. So they sit nice and flush and they're lined up. So this side's done. I'm gonna go ahead and toss it back in and go to the other side.